Hello everyone and welcome to another Marvel Universe versus DC Universe. This is the table that's been getting used for Crisis Protocol, hence it being the Crisis Protocol mat. The time has come though, as nice as it is, for a change of table for, well, this table, for the various war games, so it's time to destroy it, and rather than just do a DC Universe game, we are going to do a Marvel versus DC just because it's more interesting, more fun. Same setup as last time with the 3 holdable objectives just to keep things nice and simple. And if you didn't see that, you can go watch the first battle report just explaining how these both use the exact same gaming system. So it makes all the models compatible even though they are rival franchises. Also, within each given franchise, DC or Marvel, faction affiliations are ignored. So heroes and villains from both universes can team up together because it's just DC versus Marvel. Let's go over the specifics for the teams. 50 power level limit, although one is 48 and one is 49. So it was probably hard to miss the Marvel team this time, thanks to the 2 large lads they have in the back. But this is what we have here. I think this was the 49 team, I've forgotten now. Either way, we have Ares and we have Iron Patriot, otherwise known as Norman Osborn, from the Dark Avengers. Norman Osborn has to check at the start of each of his turns to see if he loses a power for being slightly insane. And at the back, we have the Incredible Hulk, and we have the Hulkbuster MK44 armour with Tony Stark there, on a slightly weird base because it was the only way to make it fit. I'll talk more about that in a painting video that you'll see probably after this one, as weird as that is temporally speaking. So there we go, that's one side, and let's go have a look at DC. So as mentioned, heroes and villains from each franchise can team up for these battles because they're franchise versus franchise. Hence, we do have Sinestro teaming up with Green Lantern, Superboy and Steel. The combination of Superboy and Steel, they were packaged together. I think they complement each other well, and they're both very well priced power level wise, or just level wise, however you want to call it. So that's who's going to be doing it. 4 models on each side we're going to get set up. But again, just as a reminder, 3 holdable locations down the middle of the map. Majority gets 1 extra bonus point, 1 for holding each point, and 1 for each person incapacitated. So we're all set up and ready to get started in Battle Round 1. It will be the Marvel franchise going first, and they chose this side of the table. Power has been passed out. The Iron Patriot passed his willpower roll, so he has full power. The Hulk usually has more power, but his power gets a negative modifier until he starts taking damage, and then it goes up. So he has 10 power, but while he's healthy, he loses 2. So he gets stronger as he gets weaker. Ares is all the way over that end of the table, gunning for that power over there, place of power over there. Then we have Sinestro, we have Steel, we have Superboy, and we have the Green Lantern there as well. And with that, we are ready to get started. So it's a simple activation to get things started. Norman Osborn activated. He spent 3 power to fly in his stolen Iron Man suit. I actually don't remember how he got his suit. No, Tony Stark deactivates it, so he must have stole it, yeah. Anyway, he moved for 3, and he has 8 inches on anything other than his once per game big missile, so he can't reach Sinestro. So he's banking 4 power defensively and holding that place of power for the end of the turn. The first activation for the DC side was Steel. He flew up over to the middle place of power. He is banking a lot of power. He used his once per turn engineer passive, which does a bunch of different things for free. You can only pick one though. He opted to move a scenery piece of size 4 or less within 2 up to 4 inches to shove that car away. He's basically just like smacking the bonnet with the hammer just to shove it a little bit, putting it in a better position to perhaps be used by a weapon or keep it out the way of those who might want to use it as a weapon on the enemy side. So next up to activate was the Hulkbuster, and you can kind of see where he ended up over there. He moved forwards for 2 power, which was 6 inches, although his base kind of allows him a little bit of leeway. He is within 4 inches, which is the capture distance for the places of power, or sorry, contesting distance. So first of all, he spent 3 to pick up the car. He flew over, chucked it at Steel. Steel passed his agility roll. We'll come around this side now. He passed his agility roll and took no damage from that. So then he fired it's not called repulsor blast in this, it's Gatling guns. He fired Gatling guns for 3 power, which was all we had left, at Steel, who did buff his physical defense, and it was thanks to the buffing of his physical defense that the attack did no damage. So he wasn't able to do much other than destroy a car, but hey, things have got started. Sinestro activated next and flew up for 3 power right next to Iron Patriot. He did Blunt Instrument to throw, counting his strength 4. He overloaded it. Also, Iron Patriot, trying to defend against it, buffed his physical defense and used his once per game energy field for an extra +1 to physical and energy defense. He didn't get it, so it was a 776 on the roll for the overloaded throw attempt. So Sinestro threw him out of range 4, so he's not contesting the plate of power. He smacked into the building, but he takes damage equal to the thrower's strength -1, so that was 3. Then he followed up by a Fear Blast, or whatever it's called. It is called Yellow Blast, and that's energy. He buffed his energy defense, however, it was another good roll. It got through for another 3 damage, so Iron Patriot has taken 6 damage. He is 1 away from his Pale Zone. So he's hurting a little bit. Now it's over to either Hulk or Ares. Oh, sorry, quick correction. Because of the energy field adding 1 energy defense, it actually put Iron Patriot at 19, not 18. So the Yellow Blast did not get through because it was a 19 roll. So actually that 3 damage did not get done. Ignore that. That 3 damage from being chucked, however, did. So he's taken 3 damage in total. So you might be able to tell that the battlefield has shifted a little bit again thanks to the Hulk activating. He did his once per game super jump to move 12 to give him enough clearance from where he started to there, so he's within 4, but he was also touching the weapon store. To throw something as the Hulk, it takes +1 more power for him, so it's 4 not 3 prior to any overloads if it's a person you're trying to throw. He picked up the weapon store and he threw it at Sinestro. He picked Sinestro because Sinestro's agility is worse than Steel's by 1, but Sinestro passed it. And if you pass an agility roll on a throw, you take no damage. So as nice as it is picking up a building and chucking it, DC side's just been getting so lucky with their agility rolls. Normally those get failed spectacularly. Anyway, it's over to either Superboy or Green Lantern. Superboy was the next activate, and if you didn't see him being used in any of the DC Universe battle reports, the way he works is he has to spend power to use his telekinetic powers to give him various abilities like the power of flight, superhuman strength, more damage. So he spent 1 to give himself the power of flight, 1 to improve the damage of all of his attacks by 1, and then he flew forwards, and from where he was, spent 3 power on a telekinetic wave burster or something. It's called, I think it's just called telekinetic blast, but it's a wave, so it's just an agility roll. The Hulkbuster, despite having pathetically bad agility, actually passed the roll, so it gets halved rounding down. So 3 damage, that's 2 plus the bonus damage for the buff he gave himself, gets reduced to 1 damage. So that's it. Now it's over to Ares to end the turn for Marvel. So due to being the only person here who can't fly, Ares didn't have much to do. He spent 2 power to move 8, it didn't quite put him in safe distance to the objective, so then he did his once per turn pounce for another 4 inches, and all his attacks are close range. He's a God of War, he wants to go smack people with his axe. So he has banked a massive 5 power, and obviously Green Lantern now is going to try to either move him off that point or at the very least contest it. So at the end of battle round 1, Ares is going to regen 1 HP because he has regeneration 1. Everyone else is going to be as they are. In terms of victory points, however, this one is contested. 1 DC, 1 Marvel. Osborn is out of range. Over here, 2 DCs, trump 1 Marvel, so that's 1 victory point. And Green Lantern holds that for 1 victory point, so that's 3 in total because of a bonus point for having majority. So 3 is playing 0 as we go into battle round 2. Just a reminder that for these Marvel Universe versus DC Universe battle reports, to decide who goes next, we are using Batman Miniature Game 3rd Edition methods, which is just easy. It's just a roll off on D6. If it's a draw, which it was in this case, priority goes to whoever did not get first turn in the previous turn. So in battle round 2, it will be DC going first. So to get battle round 2 started this time, we have Superboy going first, and he really wanted to damage the Hulkbuster, and he did pretty well. He just, well, first of all, he buffed himself. He gave himself superhuman strength, so that's +2 strength, so that puts him at 5, which is like Superman level strength. He also buffed his defense with 1 power, activating his extra resistance bonuses. Then he moved up for 1 and overloaded a throw attempt on the Hulkbuster, chucked him into this wall for 4 damage, then did a TK blast with the last of his power for an additional 2 damage. The Hulkbuster is 1 hit away from his Pale Zone. So the Hulkbuster decided to retaliate, stayed where he was and used 7 of his 8 power on an overloaded Unibeam, which is a once per game death ray in front of him, and it has Pierce 4, so not only did it hit Superboy, but it actually hit Steel as well, who buffed his energy defense and did manage to defend against it. Superboy, however, was fully pierced by it and took a large 5 damage from that blast. He does have one left, which he technically could have used to move closer. Actually, because of the way his base is, and his base is the same, like, it's basically the same width as Hulk's, it's just slightly differently shaped. The one move might be able to put him in contest range, but there's still 2 people there, so I don't know if it matters. We'll double check and decide that in a second. Sinestro activated next, and he had a very effective turn. First of all, he did his once per game Fear Overwhelm on poor Norman Osborn, who isn't of the best mental health in general. Dazzle 2 on him, which reduces his mental defense further, although I don't think that's going to matter for the rest of the turn. But more importantly, put him on 4 damage, so that put him into his pale zone, so he'll be doing a knockout check at the end of the game. At the end of the turn rather. Then he spent power on Blunt Instrument to pick up the car that was there, hawked it at the Hulk. It did 3 damage because the Hulk failed his agility roll, and presumably despite his size, also knocked him down. The Iron Patriot activated and Norman did not go after revenge against Sinestro. He only had 6 power. I think I forgot to mention, but Hidden Goblin, his check, was failed at the start of this turn, so he had 1 less power to play with. So he stood still. He used 5 power plus 1 to overload it to do his once per game tactical missile, which is basically a mini nuke. He shot it into Superboy because Superboy couldn't buff his defense because he'd burned through all his power, although he did have the resistance. And its explosion radius 6, so it caught Steel as well, and did 3 damage to each of them because Steel failed his agility roll. So Superboy is also now in his pale zone, so he'll be doing a knockout check at the end of the turn too. So Steel decided to retaliate by activating next. He stood still because he's claiming an objective. He used all the power he had to do an overloaded once per game Earthshaker. Earthshaker costs 6 normally, so that was all 7 power. So he's just like chucking his hammer and causing an earthquake at point of impact. The point of impact in this instance was the Iron Patriot. It did 4 damage. It also explodes for 3 or 4 inches. So it caught the Hulk, who passed his agility roll and only took 2 damage as a result. So now it's over to either the Hulk or Ares. The Hulk activated and he spent 1 to move next to Sinestro, and then did a overloaded throw, which for him unfortunately costs 5 because of his throws just costing +1, although it just reminded me his throws also do +1 damage, so when he chucks Sinestro for strength -1, which would bring it down to 5, it still gets the +1 bonus, so Sinestro actually took 6 damage. Superboy passed his agility roll though and took nothing from the impact. That's still a hefty hit, and it does mean that they have this place of power claimed. So because of the way activations have happened, Green Lantern is going before Ares, so that means he's not going to be able to just chuck him away because Ares is over there. So instead he just decided to riddle him with bullets by doing his once per game Green Gatling, which got through for quite a painful 5 damage on Ares, which puts him in his pale zone, and Green Lantern is then banking 3 power, which is enough to do his energy shield once per game reaction as well, which is, defensively speaking, very effective. So Ares is sending off battle round 2. He walked up to Green Lantern, then did his once per game overloaded as well, Wrath of God. Green Lantern buffed his defense and then also spent his other 2 power on his once per game energy field to buff his defense further, but it doesn't matter, it got through. The roll was 876, so it only does 3 damage for such a high power cost. That's just a perfect example of the out of whack differences between the Marvel Universe and DC Universe cards. But 3 damage, and that does take us to the scoring for Battle Round 2. So as we prepare to go into Battle Round 3, it will be Marvel going first in the next round. However, in this round, Ares regenerates 1 HP, which actually took him out of his pale zone, so he did not need to do a KO check. Norman Osborn and Superboy both had to, they both passed. And in terms of captures, Marvel is holding this one thanks to the Hulk. DC is obviously comfortably holding this one with 3 people on it. And then this one is contested. So that is 1 victory point each with no points for majority. With that, let's go into the third battle round. So after a little lunch break, Battle Round 3 got started with the Hulkbuster using his other once per game attack, which is a missile missile salvo? That's hard to say, missile salvo. And he shot it at Sinestro as energy based, and he had the worst energy defense. He did buff it, but it didn't matter, it did 3 to him. Then Superboy and Steel both failed their agility rolls, so they also took the full damage from it. Then he moved with his last 2 power, because that's also way too expensive to use if you overload it, to get as close to that objective over there as he could. That also puts Superboy 1 HP away from his blue zone. So knowing that he's getting weaker, Superboy activated, just moved for 2 power on the ground next to Norman Osborn, did his once per game for 7 power overloaded TK disassemble, which is telepathic, presumably. Norman buffed his defense, but it didn't matter because the roll was terrible. So he wasted all his power. He should have just picked him up and threw him. It probably would have been more effective and it would have killed him. Oh well, you'd think an ability that costs, well, 6 normally, 7 overloaded. It is just physical based, but still. It would have done, I think it's 5 damage? Yeah, 5 damage if he didn't buff his damage, which he didn't because he didn't have the spare power. Either way, the Hulk's probably going to eat him now. Let's see. So the Hulk activated, and he did indeed just spend 1 power to walk up to Superboy, spent 5 power to overload a throw, which also once again forgot would do an extra bit of damage. So he didn't do 5 damage when he threw him, he did 6. He only needed to do 5. Superboy has been removed, and that is 1 victory point. Threw him into Sinestro. Sinestro passed his agility roll and took no damage. Sinestro activated, and he had a pretty effective turn. He moved for 1 power. Then he threw Norman Osborn into the crates there, destroyed some of them, did 3 damage with the throw because Blunt Instrument counts him as strength 4. That left him on 1 HP, however he followed up with a yellow blast, which critted, so it didn't do 3 damage, it did 4. Norman Osborn, Iron Patriot, is down, so that's 1 victory point for DC for taking out someone as well. So it was just Ares left for Team Marvel. He did a Axe of Zeus, which can't be overloaded, then he did overload a God Strike. On Green Lantern, he did spend 1 power to buff against the God Strike. He can't against Zeus because of the element it is. Both did 2 damage though, which leaves him 1 away from his Pale Zone. And now it's over to him or Steel. They both get to go now to end off the turn. So to cover the last 2 activations for Team DC and for Battle Round 3, Green Lantern tried to strike Ares, failed, but then used Blunt Instrument to pick him up and throw him at the Hulkbuster. He took 3 damage from the throw. Hulkbuster failed his agility and took 2. They're both in their Pale Zone, even once the regen kicks in for Ares, I think. Steel, just to deny a point, flew over here to contest. He did 2 smacks against Hulk, one of which was overloaded. The overloaded one, oops, I knocked down scenery. The overloaded one got through for 2 damage. And that takes us to recovery and recap. So at the end of that battle round, both teams lost someone for 1 victory point each. But for the places of power, DC hold this one and this one for 1 victory point each. This one is now contested thanks to Steel, so they also have majority for 3. And in terms of knockouts, as you saw there potentially, Sinestro actually managed to succumb to his wounds despite his stats being high. And the Hulkbuster, despite mostly being a mech suit with Tony Stark in there somewhere, also succumbed and has been knocked out. Now that does put the points at a phase where it's basically unattainable for the Marvel side to catch up. However, we are going to quickly play 1 more turn just for the fun of it, because it might be a bit interesting to see if anybody can get taken out. Also, I was doing Batman Angle again, I apologise. As we go into Battle Round 4, it is DC going first. So to get what's going to be the final battle round started, Steel activated and took 2 massive swings with his hammer, overloaded them both against the Hulk's butt. Both of them got through. The Hulk did not bother buffing his defense. Both did 2 damage each. That puts him in his Pale Zone, but it's not going to matter if he gets knocked out at the end of a turn. It would have meant if we went on to another turn after this, he'd technically gain +1 power because it becomes -1 power on him instead of -2. But either way, that got it started. Over to Marvel. So the Hulk was very cross and wanted to get some retaliation, so he overloaded the throw, picked up Steel, and threw him for the overloaded damage of 6, which does put him in his blue zone. Didn't do a check for him actually, so sure, let's do it right now. 7, 8, 9. That's probably fine. Yep, it's fine. So he is conscious, but he got thrown at the unconscious Sinestro and did 2 more damage to him as well. Sinestro's still alive. He's got 4 or 5 HP left. So now it is over to either Sinestro, assuming he wants to do a wake-up check, or Green Lantern. So Sinestro took a risk and tried to wake up, and he succeeded. So he got up, -2 power, 1 for waking up, 1 for standing up. He moved for 1, then he did a yellow blast on Ares, which does have explosive, and did 3 damage to Ares. The explosion caught the Hulkbuster and did 3 damage to him as well, because he is unconscious on the ground currently. Now it is over to Ares or Hulkbuster if he wants to attempt a wake up to go next. So Ares activated and he had a really fun turn. He spent 2 on his once per game God of War, which is a 5-inch range around him buff to +1 to attack. And I think it does something else. But it affects friend and foe, but luckily the only person in range is the Hulkbuster and himself. He then moved next to Sinestro, Totally forgetting this whole time that he is superhuman, he's a god, so he actually does not just have basic human strength. So he picked Sinestro up and chucked him. He's strength 5, so it did 4 damage to Sinestro, and then Steel failed his evade with an agility roll and took 1 damage from Sinestro being size. Wait, no, Sinestro is size 2. Sinestro is size 2. That did 2 damage. Why did I think it was size 1? I guess because he's super thin. So that did 2 damage. So actually that makes it even more hilarious. Sinestro is on 1 HP. Steel was on 2 HP, but I can't count. He is now on 1 HP as well. They are both on 1 HP. That is a double kill waiting to happen. But that can only happen if the Hulkbuster gets a turn, and that means he has to wake up and have enough power to get over there, which I don't think he can. I don't think Green Lantern can kill him, but he could take away his power to fly if he does enough damage, so let's see what happens. So for the Green Lantern's turn, he just did a Green Blast on the Hulkbuster for 3 damage, which was enough to put him in his red zone, the equivalent of a blue zone for a DC card. He's already unconscious though, so that doesn't really matter. It does take away his ability to fly, but what it comes down to is, does he wake up? Which means doing a stamina roll. 5, 6, 7, 8. Does that mean he gets up? 8 yeah, he is awake. He is going to get a turn. However, he's only got 6 power and he can't fly. Let's see if he can do anything. So the heavily damaged Hulkbuster waddled forwards for 2. Kind of looks like he's getting ready to pat Ares on the head. So he waddled forwards, that left him with 4 power. He doesn't have anything left that's explosive, so he was never going to get a double kill, sadly. He did fire a overloaded Repulsor Blast though at Sinestro. It did 3 damage and it has taken him out. Steel has survived, however. And that does take us to the end of Battle Round 4, which is going to be the last turn. So at the end of Battle Round 4, that was going to be the last turn because it seemed like DC had an insurmountable lead. But actually, as much as Marvel have not been claiming objective points, they've been killing. So Sinestro went down for a victory point, thus giving Marvel the majority. Also, nobody gave in to their wounds and got knocked unconscious this turn either. Because Marvel's holding this one, and this one. Green Lantern's obviously still very comfortably holding the one over there, but that gives them 2 versus 1, plus another one for the majority, plus another one for Sinestro going down. That means that it's currently 9 to DC playing 6 to Marvel. Steel's probably going to go down in a turn. That'd make it 7 versus 9. They still hold majority, which means they could actually take this. Or, if Green Lantern goes down, they could table and win automatically. So we are actually going to play on and see what happens as we go into Battle Round 5. So the turn that wasn't going to be Battle Round 5 started with DC winning the roll-off, so they went first. Green Lantern activated. First of all, he used Blunt Instrument to pick up the shipping container that was there, chucked it in such a way that it didn't touch Ares. It only hit the Hulkbuster for 4 damage because it was a bit on the larger side. Then he did a Green Blast for 3 because he only had 1 HP left after that. Hulkbuster down, unfortunately. So that is another victory point for DC. So Ares activated, used 2 to get right up next to Steel. Then did his Axe of Zeus, which is Mystic, so you can't buff your defense against it. It got through for 2 damage. Steel has been taken out for 1 victory point, and that does take us to the end of the game proper now, because Hulk wants to stay there to claim majority, and obviously Green Lantern has had his turn and he's claiming the objective over there. So at the end of Battle Round 5, that does take us to an awkward thing, because as things stand, Steel went down, the Hulkbuster went down for 1 victory point each. Marvel holds 2 points plus majority for 3. DC holds that one over there. That leaves the points at 11 to DC and 10 to Marvel, so technically DC have it. However, the game is supposed to go 6 battle rounds. It doesn't matter who goes first, really. Ares will have 7 HP left once he regens 1, so on the final turn, if Green Lantern decided nuts to holding the objective, just go over here, try and claim the middle and kill Ares, the Hulk still holds that one, which would be majority because that'd be a draw. So if we did end at this point, DC wins. However, there's no reason not to say, oh, this is the 6th turn, here's what it is. Stay still, stay still, stay still. There's no other way to play it out because this means 3 victory points swing to Marvel versus 1. If Green Lantern successfully moves here, somehow, well, doesn't even need to kill Ares, chucks him away, I guess, like throws him away. Hulk could just move over and throw him. So the swing would still be 1. Although that would only make it a draw. I suppose. I think we have to at least do Green Lantern's turn, see if he throws Ares. Okay, so I guess we did have a turn 6. Green Lantern had his turn. He successfully threw Ares back here, did 3 damage with the impact in the car, which did put Ares in his red zone. He did not fall unconscious though, so he got a turn. He simply walked back, he tried to do an overloaded grab, he got it despite Green Lantern buffing his defense, and threw him. Doesn't matter that does the 1 damage, Green Lantern's nowhere near getting knocked unconscious, but the point is, he claims that point, which gives them 2, plus another 1 for majority, and that takes us to the true end of the game finally, with the 3-point swing. So that was a weird one. I didn't expect it to go as long as it did, because it seemed over early. I mean, I honestly thought it was going to be over turn 4, but as things were swinging, like we said at the time, Marvel was doing terribly in terms of grabbing objectives, but they were chipping away the old damage. And it really made a difference come turn 4 when people, they've got like 1 or 2 HP left, they can be taken out for a victory point. So as things stand at the end of turn 6, the proper end point for the game, DC scored a respectable 11, but Marvel took it with that extra bonus final turn with 13. So 13 plays 11, which does also mean that I think Marvel are 2-0 up in this series, but they had to fight and struggle. The Green Lantern was in no danger of getting taken down. Ares, if this had went to like turn 7, turn 8, not that these games do, but if they did, Ares would probably have went down. Hulk, it's hard to say. He's in his pale zone, but he's also getting stronger as he gets weaker. He doesn't have a role that stops him falling unconscious though, which is a little weird. But either way, that was fun. That went a lot longer than I thought. We cleared a lot of the table out, which is fun. There'll be a different setup now for the next few games, for miniature games played here. Thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to show your support and stay safe and inside. If you're watching at home, stay safe. Wait until everything is back to normal out there, then get back into your hobbying. Thank you though again for watching, and we will see you in the future for some more. Until then, ta-ta for now.